notion of habits for a second. This is a book published by, or written, by Charles Duhigg. And it talks about the power of habit. Really, really good book. Now, in this book, he defines what habits are. They're not conscious decisions. They're unconscious decisions, but they are routines. They're things that we do unconsciously, right? They're triggered by a cue, right? Some kind of cue triggered them, and once we start the routine, we're just on autopilot. We're not really thinking about it. And it goes into multiple researches actually showing that people that were quote unquote sort of like, not brain dead, but they can't sort of learn anything new, these habits they learned. Because this is not something that you do consciously. It's something that's done unconsciously, and it's actual neurological connections that happen in your brain. So, what is the importance of habits? We got to understand what's called the habit loop. There's a cue, there's a routine, and there's a reward. Okay? Cue, routine, reward. Now, let's talk about this for a minute. This cue, routine, reward structure is really dominant in organizations and in people. The cue could be anything. So how this works first, once people see the cue, they do the routine, they get a certain reward. And that reward reinforces that when this cue happens, you still want to do this routine to get this reward, right? So, as an example here, a very simple one, when you wake up, you brush your teeth, right? You get that refreshing feeling. Okay? So that's an example. And then the interesting thing about the neurological connections here is this actually over time gets amplified and it becomes something so strong in your brain that you desire it, right? So once a cue happens, actually you feel that reward and it makes you even execute the routine more automatically. Now, if you think about organizations, we have tons of these habits. When you want something done, you send an email, it's off your shoulder, right? It's not your problem anymore. What else? Give me more examples of these habit loops inside of organizations. Come on, think of stuff.
You get the blame loop, finding somebody else, something goes wrong, find
Right.
someone to blame, the rewards you get, same thing else.
Exactly. Problem happens, point to someone else, blame someone else, whew, I'm out of it. Crunch time, I saved the day, I'm the hero. Right? Heroics.
Another one is denial.
Denial, yeah. So you see these habit loops are all over organizations, right? How do you change all these habits? And when people get hired, this is what they learn on the job. It's these habits. It's not what's written in a process manual. They learn the habits from each other. They see it. So there's this notion, what's called a keystone habit. A keystone is this. In an arc, it's the stone that holds all the other stones together. So a keystone habit is a habit that has the power to start a chain reaction, changing other habits across the organization. All right? So for example, I want to lose weight. Okay? So I could start a habit of not eating dessert. That's a habit. That's a good habit. Or a keystone habit may be starting to exercise. Because a keystone habit will generate other habits. Right? Now I'm going to go to bed early, I'm going to start waking up, I'm going to, be around more healthy people, right? So you want to focus on keystone habits. Because you just can't change all the habits in an organization. Right? So we need to really understand that working on these habits, so scaling requires grinding it out and pressing each person, team, group, division, or organization to make one small change after another in what they believe, feel, or do. This is what we're talking about. You're talking about changing habits on an organizational and personal level. One habit at a time, keystone habit at a time, right? And letting and letting those keystone habits take form until they can transform everything. Okay? So I'm going to actually give you 4 keystone habits I've seen over my experience. Okay? Here are the 4 keystone habits. The first one, establish a habit of communicating and collaborating. Okay? And I'm going to explain each one. Establish a habit of working and delivering in a circular, evolutionary, non-linear manner. Establish a habit of integrating work efforts, and establish a habit of gathering feedback. Now, I've laid them out actually in sort of a roadmap. Okay? So start with collaborative, evolutionary, integrated, adaptive, and then what else, right? Keep putting habits out there. Here's how it looks like. So now, I'm no artist by any means, so this is my best visualization of this, okay? So this is what a current siloed organization would look like. So you have your silos, you have your separate work streams, they're all linear, people in there, certain communication channels. All right, we're going to establish the first habit. The first habit says, establish a habit of communicating and collaborating. Here's what it looks like. You take these structural and cultural silos, and you break them down, right? Not structurally, but culturally. Let me explain. You can't put all 10,000 people of an organization into one org structure, right? You can't put them in one department. So we have silos. But the danger of these silos today are that they're cultural as well as structural, which is, I only care about my thing. So what we want to do is remove the cultural silos first. We need to establish, if we are a knowledge work organization company, we need to establish an extremely strong network of communication and collaboration all across. Why? Because innovation happens here. Discovery and learning happens here. When we talk about Agile, when we say individuals and interactions over processes and tools, take that to an organizational level, not to a software level, and this is what we're talking about. When people start talking, when business people and IT people and ops people and finance people and legal people, when they start all talking together, innovation happens. Discovery, learning happens. And that's the first step. That's the most powerful keystone habit you can start. Because from that, tons of other things will happen. And teams that have been, quote unquote, even doing Agile, well, they report one of the best things that we're realizing is communication and collaboration. And it's going to be hard. Now, moving beyond that sort of quote-unquote first keystone habit is the second keystone habit, which is now changing the way people work from linear to non-linear. So remember when we talked about thin slicing, right, the Kano model? So now we want to think of everything that way. But why did we start with communication and collaboration first? Because you won't be able to thin slice, right? What's going to happen if you don't have communication and collaboration is business will thin slice their own and IT will thin slice their own, right? And those are two different slices. We want collaboration to thin slice the work and work collaboratively in a non-linear manner.
So you're saying you need to make sure everybody has shared agreement in about what is valued.
We need to, yes, exactly. We need to make sure that sort of, before we move to a different way of working, right, non-linear, we need to ensure that people can discuss this, right? They have common vernacular, they share what value means, and even if they don't, they're willing to communicate and talk about it, right? Not through, quote-unquote, formal lines of process and communication. That's crap. No, but through true collaboration and communication together. That's why I believe, that's why I have them sort of in a sequence. Because I've tried this before, and if you don't have this, this will not succeed. Now, people are talking to each other, right? We're working in more value slices. The key thing next is to start integrating work efforts. Now, remember, knowledge work is not like task work or assembly line work. One of the key premises of assembly line work is take the product, divide it into little pieces, have everyone work on a piece, and then integrate at the end, right? like the video of the house we saw. Knowledge work cannot be managed that way, right? Think of a proposal you tried to write, and every one of you took a section, right? And you tried to integrate at the end. Disaster. So instead of integrating at the end, we want to integrate every day. We want to integrate every hour, right? We want to integrate as much as possible, structurally and workflow-wise. So we took our 9 different sort of lines of quote-unquote, work, and we gathered them into 2. We took our structures, right? Instead of silos, we created overlapping, integrating structures. You'll still have to have structures, okay? But you can design them, and we'll talk about this later, how to design overlapping structures, overlapping teams, right? To make sure that this integration is happening. Now, we're building stuff that's integrated. We're talking to each other, right? Yes, now we have I would say at this point, we move to the 4th Keystone habit, which is accept feedback. Now, get as much feedback as you can and don't shy away from it. And the reason I didn't put that first is because I have seen teams that can't, you open the floodgates of feedback, they can't accommodate it. Right? They actually drown in the feedback. Having then, back in the day, a change control board is actually better for them because it's just too much change coming their way. They're not talking to each other, they're not building things in a way where they can accommodate all this feedback coming in. So, those are the 4 Keystone habits that I have done that I've seen great success from. Now, we're talking about changing the organization, okay, towards this. We need to understand what's called the change curve, right? And this is one of the change curves. This is the Virginia Satir change curve. Lots of other change models. This is quite simple. You start here, organizations are sort of performing at a certain level. Then you get this moment of change. We're going agile, yay! This short-term gain and excitement. And then it's followed quite roughly by this period of resistance and chaos. And then comes this quote-unquote transforming idea that starts to move to a phase of integration and a new status quo or a new comfort zone, and then you want to keep going, okay? Now, organizations understand this. Leaders get this. Whether intuitively or explicitly, they get it. And so, I want to reduce this period of chaos and resistance. And this is where they go to what? The pilot project. This is where they go to that one team, which is, listen, I can't take the entire organization through this. So what do I do instead? Take team A through it. Then team B through it. But remember, that's not organizational agility. So what we want to do is we want to say, okay, we agree with that. But thin slice the organization, not teams. So take the entire organization, step 1. Take the entire organization, step 2. Do you guys see the vast difference between this? It's instead of saying, listen, you want organizational agility. All right? What are you going to do? Are you going to change teams, or are you going to actually take the organization through a journey of agility? And because they don't know the difference, it's much easier to say, Team A, you go do Agile. But really, you're not getting organizational agility. What you're getting is an Agile team. So, what we want to do with these steps, we're going to decrease this impact of change. And this is exactly what we're going to do with this model. So we're going to take step 1 and say, we're going to establish communication and collaboration. Step 2, deliver early and frequently, right? So we're going to start building these habits into this roadmap. And here comes the roadmap. So this is the template I actually use to design roadmaps for organizational transformation. Okay, let's take a look at it together. We start by saying the following. Keystone habit 1. Establish a habit of communication and collaboration. Okay, good. Leadership. What does leadership need to know or do to enable and support and promote this keystone habit of communication and collaboration? Now let's answer that together. Write that down. What needs to change for our strategies to enable, support, and promote communication and collaboration? What needs to change for our structure to enable, support, and promote communication and collaboration? Does that make sense what we're doing here? Here are examples of real organizational roadmaps. Now remember, this is a template, so as we actually work with organizations, we change these templates. Right? So here's one, here's the other, another. Let's talk about this for a minute. Let's talk about this one for a minute. So, let's take a look at what these guys did. Okay? So focus on this with me here, and it will become more clear, I promise. So stage one, they said, okay, for leadership, here's what we're going to do. We're going to teach leadership about the Agile mindset. We're going to explain to them how to manage knowledge work and what's called facilitative leadership. Strategy. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a cross-silo portfolio team that looks at value. A cross-silo portfolio team that looks at value. What does that have to do? Well, they're going to start communicating and collaborating. Good. We're going to have management level rewarding systems for team collaboration, not heroics. Excellent. Structure. We're going to have a new role called the value team facilitator. Process. We're going to have a process called chartering, which is at the beginning of the project, everyone comes together to discuss the goals, vision, measures of success of the project. We're going to have information radiators, so people can understand and communicate easily, maybe even non-verbally, just walking across the hall, understand where people are. We're going to have more collaboration tools. We're going to have a 15-minute daily touch point, and we're going to have retrospectives. What about people? We're going to teach them all the Agile fundamentals, including the Agile mindset. Now, let's pause here and think about this. This is a real company. This is not make-believe here. Okay? Now, look at what they're doing down here. This is a stage. This took 2 years. This one stage took 2 years. 5,000 people. 5,000 people, 2 years. Now, no iterations, no user stories, right? No backlog, none of the typical Agile stuff. Because the focus was not Agile. The focus was what? Culture. Enhancing communication and collaboration. We want to move the entire triangle. So what are we going to do with the entire triangle? We're going to touch every part of the triangle. Leadership. You cannot have this blank. So, we're not going to do anything for leadership. They're good. Right? What is leadership going to do to enhance communication and collaboration? What's the structure? Right? Strategy, structure, process. And they fill out everything. There may be some blanks up here we'll get to next. Right? They continuously evolve this. And this is what happened for real here is when they started getting to stage 2, they almost automatically went into it because now there was collaboration. So instead of forcing 5,000 people to do 2-week iterations, which was a nightmare to say the least, what happened was the business people said, are you done with that? Can I take a look at it? And they provided feedback. You got the value out of quote-unquote iterations without forcing it upon them. And I've seen sort of the opposite, right? Where companies force iterations and the business people aren't there. So at the end of the iteration, you're not getting feedback. So what's the value of the iteration? Well, we have 300 people doing iterations. Well, good. Is the business involved? Yeah, we're still working on that. Right? So it's really a different way of approaching it. And keep in mind something. These two columns, leadership and people, are the two, I believe, most essential columns. And I wish there was an easier way, but it's about 3 things: learning and education, coaching, and mentoring. These are your human elements. strategy, structure, and process are non-human elements. We still need to put stuff in here, right? If you look at the slide before, when you really think about it, this is where transformations focus their work. We're going to put process, we're going to put some new roles, but wait a minute. These are the enablers of that. If people don't get the why, then they're going to resist the change. You know what? Here's a little secret. How do you know you're misaligned? Resistance. Think about it. If people are resisting a practice, then they don't understand why it is. So you've moved the strategy or structure or process, but without moving people's beliefs and values and educating them. Because if people's beliefs change, then yeah, they'll accept the new change. And how do you change people's beliefs, values, and norms? It takes a lot of work. And there's no easy way to do it. Learning and education. Coaching, mentoring. And again, remember this diagram. It's about this stuff. It's about the being of Agile, not the doing of Agile. Not these rituals. Not the iteration planning, not the daily stand-ups, not those. Those are the process pieces. But what about all this? I told you guys I'm the executive director for IC Agile, right? So the International Consortium for Agile, what they did was try to create a learning roadmap. How to take the entire organization on a common educational journey, right? And they said, okay, we're going to start with the fundamentals of Agile. Everyone needs to learn the fundamentals of Agile, right? The mindset, values, and principles. Leaders need to take a leadership track. Testers take a testing track. Developers, a developer track. Coaches, a coaching track, right? Management, right? There's these different tracks. And each one of these tracks has a set of learning objectives, right? Designed by who? By world experts in this stuff. So I'll show you guys the website in a minute. But each one of these, like this one has 80 different learning objectives. This is what people need to learn. Not to do coaching, but to be a coach. And these are available for free. These are learning objectives. They're Creative Commons. They're out there. Print them, look at them, right? Create educational journeys for people. And you don't want sort of only this side going on an educational journey. You want a common educational journey for the organization. And remember, you can't buy a culture transformation. It takes a lot of work from within the company. It's like trying to tell someone, David, I need you to lose weight for me. I want to lose weight, but I just don't want to do it. I'm going to hire you to lose weight for me. Because that doesn't work, right? It's not sustainable. So the key question really is, what do you want? Do you want temporary change or sustainable transformation? Right? Because people have tried to lose weight before, and you can do stuff to lose weight quickly, but then you gain back. So it's not about a change of a diet, it's a change of a lifestyle. It's not about a change of a process or a strategy or a structure. It's a change of a mindset. So, New Jack's plan looks quite different. He says, I'm going to start educating everyone on the Agile mindset. Why? So that people understand why it's critical to be Agile. So remember that heat map we talked about? To get people to even believe that Agile is a necessity to the organization, you need to educate. You need to educate on what we're talking about here. The mindset, the knowledge age work, right? Create a cross-functional, multi-level transformational team. This is not about IT, right? We need a transformation team that has finance people, that has operations, has HR. Why? Because you're transforming the culture. You're transforming all the elements of the organization. Lay out a roadmap for establishing the keystone habits across the organization. What are your keystone habits that you want to establish? I gave you 4. Throw them away if you don't like it. But find out what are the keystone habits for your organization. Then, once you've created the keystone habits and sort of that structure of the roadmap, remember that empty one? Now look at, okay, what's the educational program I'm going to have for leadership and people? And then map that to a transformational program that will align the strategy, structure, and process to the educational program, or vice versa, as long as they're aligned, right? So you need, as you're putting new strategy, structure, and process, you need to make sure people are educated on what you're doing and the why behind why you're doing it. Okay? Establish a measurement system to give the team insights into progress and impact. Without a proper measurement system, you'll still be measuring the old stuff, right? And then continuously inspect and adapt the roadmap. Yeah.
In your references, you've got the lean startup by your Greece. Any talks, I'm thinking of Jack's situation, you've talked about moving the whole organisation, and for that to happen, the leadership have to be broadly on board.
Yes.
Jack needing to get his colleagues, or probably his bosses, on board. And here at Greece, I can't remember which company he was talking about in the lean startup, but talks approvingly of a top-level exec who effectively created a shelter for inside a big organisation for a lean startup, is supported by agile methods to flourish. And by the way, educated senior leadership team of the organisation about how things could be done. That's not a...
No. So let me tell you exactly how that relates to what we just talked about. So I think that's exactly correct. So here's what needs to happen, right? You need to create the first strawberry. Because you cannot go to a set of executives and say, let's just do agile. What does it look like, right? So you need to create the strawberry. And you need to protect the strawberry, right, to a point where you can show it to people without it getting smushed, correct? Till you can get their buy-in. Now, here's the difference. When you get the buy-in to move to a transformation, it's not about creating more strawberries. That's the shifting point, where we say, okay, we were on the path, because it's not really one strawberry, right? You create 4 or 5, 7, 10 strawberries, and you protect them with your life. And the whole point is, I wanted to visualize why you're protecting them. Because if you don't protect them, this thing is going to snap right back, right? So you protect them, I get it. But how long can you protect them? And as you're protecting them, what are you trying to do? Add more strawberries? Or is it enough to get 10 and focus on getting buy-in? Because here's what happens. You start 5, 6, 7, 10, you keep going to 20, 30, 40. And you think that sooner or later you can get organizational agility. The reality I've seen is no. You need some strawberries to start the strawberry jam recipe, right? You need some, obviously, and protect them, I get that. But then once you can gain people's attention to it and get buy-in from the strawberry, stop adding more strawberries and start creating jam. That's how I see it. That's how I've experienced it. Make sense? Other questions? Deep stuff. I'm impressed you guys survived.
First, for a particular organisation, when you start talking about silos, you really nailed some of the issues that we're currently facing. So this is very interesting how, especially where you're looking at the not removing the structures, breaking down the silos.
The cultural silo.
Yeah. We've definitely got a lot of that.
And you know what? Going back here a couple of slides. It's okay to stop here. It's okay to stop here. But when you stop here, you have a sustainable stopping point. You're not protecting anything, right? You have an organization that has truly transformed. You're not all the way over there. It's okay. But you're definitely better than where you were. When we got here, 5,000 people started collaborating. Guys, I don't care if you do iterations or anything else. 5,000 people started collaborating. And when you had chartering sessions, I mean, you had 100 or 150 people attend these sessions. Large projects kickoffs, right, where people are actually talking, not listening to a freaking PowerPoint. People are talking, what do you think the vision is? Well, I think it should be this, and I think it should be this. Still, there's an ultimate decision maker, respected, right? But he's hearing input from everyone. And who was there? I kid you not, from the CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, CIO, all the way down to the junior developer and tester. All in the same room. Listening to the same stuff, discussing the same stuff. That's where ideas are generated. That's where innovation happens. That one practice shedded 25% off the time of projects. And it was sustainable because there was a mindset shift. So that's what we're talking about, right? And see, going back to the strawberries, it's because it's strawberry and strawberry jam, it looks, almost smells the same, right? Agile teams, organizational agility, don't we just add more of them? No, totally two different things. People just don't get that. Because it looks so similar. And remember, any good strawberry jam has lumps of strawberries inside of it. Right? And so you need those teams there. I mean, you still have agile teams, but then you have the jelly. But you have that connecting tissue. That's what we're after. That's the best analogy I could find, the strawberry jam, because it's so visual of what we're actually trying to achieve. And when you really think about agility, jam has a lot more agility than just strawberries in a bowl. Right? It can navigate much better. You can squeeze it, you can, I don't know. We're not about that. But do you see the value of learning and education? And it's unfortunate because I don't think most of the community understands that. I think we're looking for quick solutions. And learning and education takes time. Years.
Taking what you've been talking about here, though, the problem is that the people trying to implement the quick solutions are in the wrong part of the organisation.
Yeah, in the first place. Yeah.
To me, the challenge here is how do you get the board, or at the very least the CEOs, to buy into this? It's a bit like, Beta Next was a really good format, but it didn't win out because the market didn't buy into it. So,
and here's the thing: education, right there. Education has to happen right there. And again, you'll see me repeat this many times, right? On the customer side, education has to happen. On the executive side, education has to happen. Because listen, they're not going to wake up and say, yep, knowledge work, innovation, agile, we're on board. No, it's not going to happen. They're so busy with other stuff. But here's my experience. I have not talked to a single executive around the world about this stuff, except they say, we get it. And they do get it when they hear about it. You know the Carol Dweck book on mindset? No one asked me, how do we change mindsets? Right? The number one thing to change mindset is to educate that there is another mindset. That was the number one thing. What's number two? Help people when they lapse back to the old mindset. Because they will. So what we do is we tell executives all this. And this is why I'm recording today. So we can point people to this and say, go listen to this. And then, okay, let's embark on the journey. It's not going to be easy. And then we have this constant coaching and mentoring to do what? We're going to lapse, all of us. I lapse, right? I mean, I've been working on my mindset so hard. It's not easy. It really isn't. Because when you have a moment of fear of failure, what do? Do you remind yourself of that learning? Right? What about the environment I'm in? It is quite complex. And I'm not telling you guys all this to frighten you or scare you. It's, first of all, it's a conscious decision. Strawberries or strawberry jam? Two different approaches. All this stuff I'm talking about, these roadmaps, and this is for jam. For strawberries, get a team, teach them Scrum, evolve, do your retrospectives, it'll be good. It's easier. But I don't believe it's sustainable. I just haven't seen it. I've seen amazing agile Scrum teams for 2-3 years. And then where did they go? Oh, yeah. We spent millions on this. And just got a new CIO. It wasn't a transformation. It was just an adoption. Cool? Now, to anchor this learning, here's what you guys are going to do. On your flip charts, you're not going to look at the new Jack's roadmap. Don't look at it, okay? And I want you guys to discuss, if you're transforming, what's your plan? Okay? We're not going to create these roadmaps. This is too complicated, right? But what we're going to create is something like this, right? But don't do his. And I'm pretty sure you won't remember every word on this thing anyway. So, promise me don't look at it and engage in a discussion. This is going to anchor the learning we just went through. And that's what we really want. Okay? We'll do that for 15 minutes. We'll show each other our plans, and then we'll take a break.